Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, along here with, guess it's all on me today.
This is a bit of news from the other side of the Atlantic. AFC Richmond announced the hiring of their new manager, American football coach Ted Lasso.
As the title suggests, today I'll be talking about Ted Lasso, which means, yes, I've finally broken down and got Apple TV. And so far, I do not regret that decision. Who would have thought that a series based on a soccer ad for NBC Sports would be the main attraction for an Apple streaming service?
There's a lot of small similarities.
A-team I coach, they're going to play hard for all four quarters, okay?
Two halves.
What's that?
Two halves.
Okay, halves.
I just hope this doesn't become a thing now, because I swear to God, if they make a Progressive Flow television series or one about that goddamn Limu Emu, I'll probably jump out of a plane with a parachute that works roughly 27.4% of the time. But Ted Lasso is a show I've very much enjoyed. I've only seen the first season so far, and they're currently running season 2, so I'm very excited to catch up to that. But this is just a joy to watch so far, and I think we need more of shows like this. I think a lot of shows nowadays try to be a little bit dark, dramatic, maybe overly depressing, and try to elicit that emotional response, and I very much love shows that main goal is to elicit happiness and hopefulness and joy, and this show just hits you with this unrelenting optimism throughout, and it's such a great change of pace. It almost reminds me of like Parks and Rec, where you love the characters so much and everything's just such a positivity around them, and you know things are for the most part going to end on a high note, but it earns it so well, and you just want to see these characters succeed, and I think no one really emphasizes that atmosphere around the show other than Jason Sudeikis as the titular Ted Lasso. I was worried during the first couple episodes, I'm like, it's just gonna get old quick, because he was a little much at first, but as the show goes on, this character is just a delight. His view on the world and his perspective on things is it's so refreshing at times, and you really just want to see this guy succeed. He's thrust into this world where he doesn't know anything about football. Oh, look at me. I said football instead of soccer. It's really rubbing off on me. I kind of relate to that because I don't really know much about soccer either, except for my 3-year stretch where I absolutely dominated FIFA. But getting to kind of learn and kind of go into this world with Ted was, because I really got that experience personally as an audience member, as like going along this journey with him and Coach Beard. And as he tries to adjust to this new world, bringing that positive attitude, it's just fun to watch. And obviously there are some obstacles along the way for Ted, but as the show progresses, you just get more and more drawn to this character, and so do the other characters in the show. Obviously, coming in as an American football coach, not knowing about soccer, it's not easy to gain the respect of your colleagues and the fans and the people around you, but he's just so goddamn infectious. Like, it even makes Mrs. Welton, like, obviously in the beginning she's trying to derail him, but you just can't help but to root for this character and be on his side and change your opinion on him the more you spend your time with him. And like I said, it's just so refreshing to have that type of vibe and atmosphere around the show. And the main thing is really, like, I guess it's cool for football, soccer fans to watch because it is set in that world, but it can really be in any type of setting. I guess some of the themes of coming together and looking at things from a different perspective and having some optimism can really relate to any setting or scenario. I guess it is cool to be in this world, but you really don't need that. And I think it's just more of the character's journey and how he is able to change the people around him while going through his own hardships. And that's a tough thing to do, to be able to worry about other people, help other people, but while going through your own thing. It really just shows the type of character he is. And the way he's able to play off these other different characters within the team, the front office, or just the fans is just a real pleasure to watch. And I don't think they ever try to hide what they're trying to do here. Like, we're never watching this and thinking that Mrs. Welton is not gonna eventually go on Ted's side, or even somebody like Jamie, who eventually, a little bit slower, but he eventually kind of warms up to Ted, and even with a character like Roy Kent, who by the end basically says he loves him.
This is why it's hard to love you.
Oh, you heard it right. He loves you.
You kind of can telegraph that going forward, but it really doesn't matter because It's just these characters coming together, and that's really what the show is about, I feel. And the cast really comes together with their different relationships. Obviously, you have Ted and Coach Beard, who are the two Americans coming in, but the way their interactions with Nathan go are just some of the funniest parts of the show. Their humor is, I want to be friends with them, because I would laugh hysterically at Ted's type of humor.
Thank you. So, I spoke to the owner of The Sun.
You spoke to God?
No, the newspaper.
It's corny. It may not land all the time, but it's just perfect. But even characters like Mrs. Welton and Keely Jones having a relationship and kind of humanizing this character of Mrs. Welton, who you could view her throughout, you can always tell she's battling within herself, going through this divorce and being in the public eye all the time and being so driven by revenge to stick it to her ex-husband that she ends up hurting innocent people around her. But you see her in those moments when she's interacting with Ted and interacting with Keely that there is another side to her, and as the season progresses, that really comes out. And I think Hannah Waddingham really has the best performance in season 1. I think that she really holds the show together, and seeing her transform is just kind of a representation of the show as a whole and the people around Ted. And you bring in other characters that really kind of draw you to the screen and have interesting dynamics, like Brett Goldstein as Roy Kent and Phil Dunster as Jamie Tart. Those two kind of really, I think, are really the driving force within some of the supporting characters and their relationship and their dynamic, because the characters just bounce so well off each other. You have the young upstart superstar and the old wily veteran who just naturally clash heads, and who's better than to try to mend that relationship than Coach Ted Lasso? And even him going to players like Sam and some of the other players, giving them some inspiration, giving them some meaning, some positive reinforcement. It can come off as maybe a little bit corny or a little cheesy at times, but that really doesn't bother me, because that's what the show set out to be, and that's what it sets the tone as. So you really don't really feel that. You just feel a little bit of inspiration, and you feel happy and feel joy, which, like I said, why don't shows do that? Especially comedies. And for most of the comedy, I feel like it's probably not like the most hilarious show I've seen. I'm not sitting on my couch not being able to breathe because I'm laughing so hard. A lot of like inner like nose kind of laughs, like or they'll say something and I'll recognize that it's funny, but I actually won't physically laugh. But it still works. It doesn't have to be, Always Sunny or The Office type levels of funny, because I think the comedy of the show really complements the story and the characters very well. So like I said, while I don't think it's the funniest show, I think the show as a whole, in terms of that comedy genre, is probably one of the better, newer comedies I've seen recently. And as far as like the soccer and the actual gameplay, I actually rather enjoy that. I know some people have criticized it for not being really too realistic, but I don't think that really matters in the show, because like I said, what they're trying to get across it fits well in this world, but it's not really a necessity. But I think it is interesting to choose this kind of path, and obviously it's based off of the soccer commercial, so it was a natural setting for this series. I don't really know too much about soccer either, so maybe it's not realistic in terms of the gameplay or the practices, or an American just jumping in, not knowing a lick, but still being able to be somewhat competent at his job. Maybe that's not realistic, but that really doesn't bother me. And I guess it kind of further drives home the point of the type of coach Ted is. It's not about really knowing the X's and O's, so to say, but it's about building relationships, teamwork, helping your fellow human out, and just being an all-around good person to kind of build that overall chemistry. And I think that's what the show is really trying to set out to do, rather than be a replica or a great representation of the beautiful game, as they call it. Also, the pop culture references have been incredible. When they're arguing about Scorsese's best film in the pub.
But I think we can all agree that The Departed is not necessarily his best work.
No.
That belongs to The Color of Money.
No, it's Goodfellas.
That's just right up my alley, and everything they draw from and the references they make, from Pompeii to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it's like you never know what type of pop culture reference you're going to get, and it just flows so well, and I think that's a testament to the writing. It's very witty. It does go pretty fast with its comedy. Maybe that's a problem for me personally, why I'm not sitting here laughing out loud, is because I just miss a lot of things. It really comes at you quick and then move on from joke to joke. I'm sure there's analytics for jokes per minute, but I feel like this would be up there with most of the comedy shows I watch, and I when you do catch them, it's like takes you a couple minutes where you're like, oh yeah, I got that reference. Nice. That was a good one. And even some of the subtler humor I find interesting, just like the players' reactions or their kind of responses to whenever a character makes some of these references and they agree or they disagree or it elicits a response from them. And I think a lot of that hits as well. And for as wholesome and as optimistic the show is, there are some sadder moments, but I think they do a good job of using those moments for the audience to really sympathize with the character and build upon that character. And there's always a relatively fast turnaround with some more optimism. You know, you have a character, whether it be Ted or Miss Welton, who are going through marital issues and divorces and, you know, really depressing real life issues. And those moments of reflection with them, when they are sad, when they are broken, when they feel at their lowest, you have somebody like Ted or Mrs. Welton where they kind of use each other for support and elicit some optimism within them, where even if someone's at their lowest, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's always a good reminder and a good thing to kind of show within not just this series, but anything, because I think a lot of television, a lot of movies tend to make the lower points or the depressing points a focal point, where this kind of uses that as a way to show that there is optimism in this world and in life. And like I said, it's just a refreshing type of viewing experience where a show can do that so well, where it can always bring something positive, even if there is a negative aspect with going on within these characters or within the show. Can we just talk about, like, who'd like want to divorce Ted? He's just like the best. You know, and his wife seems great too. Like, I don't get it. That might be the most unbelievable thing in the show, to be honest. More unbelievable than a Division II American football coach going to the Premier League to coach soccer. I think someone wanting to divorce Ted Lasso is probably more unbelievable. I mean, the man makes homemade biscuits, for God's sakes, every morning. Like, what more do you want? But after finishing season 1, it took a lot of self-control to not start season 2 because I didn't want it to affect or mix up my thoughts with season 1. So now that I'm finally recording this, I get to dive into season 2, and I'm looking forward to it. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite running shows right now, and it's only been like a week since I started watching it. And at the time of recording this, I think we're in episode 4 of season 2, so I hope it kind of stays to that standard, which I don't really doubt it will. So I'm looking forward to diving into that and looking forward to coming back here to talk about season 2 after it's finished. It would be funny though, after gushing about how positive and wholesome this show is, season 2 is just super fucking dark, and you guys are listening to this like, wait till you see what happens, bud. Ted loses a leg. Coach Beard shaves. Higgins gets eaten by a shark. I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but I guess I'll have to wait and see. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you are watching Ted Lasso and enjoying that. Let me know what you think of the series in the comments below. Do you think it is the best comedy going right now? Because it might be. And it might be the only reason why I keep Apple TV, which is saying a lot. I mean, that's like $10 a month, so they better be giving all that to Brendan Hunt and Jason Sudeikis and the rest of the writers and producers and crew, because that's what I'm paying for. Don't give it a C. If you use any of my $10 a month to fund season 2 of C, I'm canceling. And I'm getting an Android. No, that's ridiculous. I'll never get an Android. Damn, we were making some good points in that video. Hey guys, Aaron the Nerd Suit Monkey here. Before we end this video, I want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. What can I say about you guys that I haven't already said about myself? You are the most important part of the channel and the main reason we keep going strong. Like Bo says, you keep the lights on in the fridge so the fridge is full. Or something like that. So, from everyone here at Nerd Soup, I'd like to thank you guys for your continued support. If you're interested in joining the ranks of our Patreon supporters, head over to patreon.com/nerdsoup and check out the rewards we offer to our patrons. We recently dropped some new stickers for you guys to check out, or you could choose a tier that will allow you to select a movie, show, or video game for us to review. We've got a full slate of fan-suggested reviews coming your way, and we're really excited about the chance to review some of those movies and shows. We've also got t-shirts, mugs, behind-the-scenes videos showing how we bring our videos to life. And once again, thank you to all our Patreon pledgers who have been supporting us throughout the years. Without you, we wouldn't be able to convert all your pledges into cryptocurrency, so thank you from my future self for making us rich.